Hi everyone, it's Bob Ost, and it's Friday. It's October 24th, I think. I'm known for getting the date wrong, so bear with me. It's part of it's like one of my trademarks, but I think it's the 24th, and this actually happens to be our 285th consecutive week of doing what we call the TRU Community Gathering. Um, we're here every Friday, and we started this as a community service back in 2020, April 17th to be exact, uh, because we were in shutdown and we were artists and we didn't want to be alone. So I opened up a room and people came in here and we talked about things every week. Um, Topics have changed over the years, and right now we're in what closely resembles a normal theater world, although Lord knows there's nothing normal about the world that we're living through right now, for other reasons. But now that we're out of shutdown and we're no longer quarantined, we have conversations about all aspects of theater. And people ask me, how do I do it 285 consecutive weeks? How do I find people every week? Well, sometimes I have an idea, and sometimes I think, oh, it'd be interesting to come have a talk about this or that, and I like seek people. But I also get a lot of emails. As the guy who runs Theater Resources Unlimited, I get 150 emails a day, and every now and then I get an email and I go, hmm, this might be interesting for my show. And it happens that Neeraja Ramjee emailed me to tell me about a show that she's doing. And I thought, I don't know that much about South Asian arts communities. And I think it would be interesting to find out how, as we say in the title of this, East meets West. Hey, nobody's ever said that before, huh? But meets West, and how we've influenced how other cultures have influenced us, and how we've influenced other cultures. So I'm going to be bringing Neeraja and Rudaba on in a minute. I do want to let everybody know, because some of you are finding us randomly on YouTube. Maybe not random, maybe you're intentionally looking for us, which would be really cool. But if you did just happen to wander in, we are an arts service organization in New York. I used to pride myself on being a small arts service organization in New York, and I thought I was sort of New York centric. And then when COVID hit and we started doing this, suddenly we had people coming in from all over the country and all over the world. So we're no longer a little art-centric New York-based company. We're actually global in terms of the audiences that we have. I'm hoping that we have audiences out there that are finding us from everywhere and anywhere. Welcome, and I hope you'll be part of us every week. I want you to meet my two speakers today. One is from India, one is from Pakistan. So let's find out what the differences are in terms of those backgrounds and those histories, and let's talk about South Asian, the arts in South Asia versus what we do here, and what some of the roots are. And we're going to just like jump around the map a lot. We're gonna look at different aspects of this conversation, and I'm going to let my guests guide me a little bit too, because some things may be of interest to them that they want to talk about. So this is Neeraja, and I want you to meet Rudaba. So Neeraja and Rudaba, welcome to TRU. I'm going to come on later, but I'm going to have you folk highlighted right now. So Neeraja, you're the one that emailed me. So there. This is what you get for emailing me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bob.
Well, you're welcome. It's a pleasure, and it's a great opportunity for me to talk about things I don't know that much about. I don't pretend to be an expert on this particular subject, but I want you to educate me a little bit. Tell me about your background. You were born in Bangalore,
India.
yeah, Bangalore in India.
Yes, yes. I was born in Bangalore in India. And then I moved to Canada, and then I moved to New York.
Oh, so you're
So,
multicultural.
so I've sort of like moved around. Yeah, I live in New York right now. I'm an actor and a producer. You mentioned this, Bob. I'm doing a play. It actually opens in slightly under 2 weeks in November. It's called Broken Images by Girish Karnad. So speaking of theater and speaking of South Asian theater, Girish Karnad is one of the most prolific Indian playwrights. And he wrote a one-woman play about a writer who catapults to international fame and is then confronted by her image. And the play explores themes of identity and ambition and who do we present ourselves to the world and who are we behind closed doors? This sort of self-presentation and reality versus hyper-reality. So it's a really cool psychological thriller. And if you'd like to come, you can find us, Broken Images, on Eventbrite.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and you, of course, are going to put a link in the chat
I'll
for
put
the
the
people
link.
here.
I'll put the link in the
Yeah.
chat for people who are here.
I'm going to do a quick move to Rudaba on the same topic because Rudaba just had a reading this week. You just did a
Oh,
reading of a one woman show, right?
it's actually coming up. It's on
Oh, it's coming.
Monday.
When? Oh, it's on Monday. Oh my
And
goodness.
I
So
hope
you
you can be there.
you can tell us about that too.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Rudaba Nasir. I was born and raised in Lahore, Pakistan, in the province of Punjab. So I'm Punjabi. And I've been in America since about 2011 and in New York since 2022. So I consider myself, a bit of both Pakistani and American at this stage. Uh, but yes, the show that Bob just mentioned, you know how an actor in New York, you all know how it is. We audition, we self-tape, we try to get in through those doors. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So in those in between spaces, we can really empower ourselves and create our own material, create our own projects. So this show that Bob just mentioned, it's my solo show. I've written it. I'm also performing in it. It's called Halal-ish. So halal-ish, but not quite halal. That would be the translation. And
Oh,
I
we
also
have
have
ish in English too.
you have ish in, exactly. So halal-ish, and it describes me perfectly. And there's live music in it. There's singing. There's just a fantastic interplay of different cultural influences that also reflect my own cultural influences that I have. So many different Western and global and also Pakistani roots. So, yes, it's about one woman's journey from Pakistan to New York City in search of love. So, whether she finds it or not, come find out.
Well, I'm going to come on. I'm going to join you, and I want to ask a few specific questions. I want to ask both of you what was it like being an artist in your native land, and how is it different from here, if it is at all? I mean, it's an assumption on my part that maybe it's a false assumption. And Nirja, what's the scene like in India, and how is it? What were the surprises when you came here?
Yeah, so India lives in a paradox right now, or at least maybe 20 years ago, until right now, between the East and the West, right? Like there's a duality to it. So when I grew up with theater, I grew up with film and TV, and a lot of that was Indian film and TV, but there was a lot of Western culture influenced in it. So I grew up watching Full House and and Wonder Years and like all of the Friends and stuff like and all of the very popular American shows and also Hollywood movies is also very popular. So for me, and I had some family living in the States. So for me, when I moved here, there's always a bit of a sense of cultural shock in some ways, but in a lot of ways there isn't because you sort of glean a lot from watching a lot
American
of the
TV.
American TV, and you go, oh, like I remember coming to New York and going, oh my gosh, I gotta go visit like the Empire State, but things that you want to do when you move
And
here.
you started looking for Central Perk.
Yeah. No, I knew that Central Perk wasn't necessarily real.
Although
But
Tom's restaurant does exist
that's true.
for Seinfeld watchers.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah, so I grew up watching all of that. I I was never an artist in India. I became an artist once I moved abroad.
Well,
Um,
that is interesting.
yeah. I grew up in a very academic family and I went down the academic lane. But my family has always been very cultural, in the sense that we have dancers in our family, we have musicians in our family, but that's never someone's full-time job because we're like, well, it's not, as we all know, there's a huge impermanence to it. Um, and when you think of Indian cinema, and especially if you think of Bollywood,
Bollywood.
there can be it's the biggest industry in terms of numbers. We have, I think, close to 2,000 movies that come out a year. There's a sort of godliness to the big stars there. People are literally worshipped. But the thing with Bollywood is that it can feel very much like a family business a lot because there are certain tenets of families where your father's an actor, your mom was an actor, your cousin's an actor, or in the film industry, and you sort of like have those tentacles. And so, as someone coming in, it's a harder push to get into the industry. Not that it's not possible, but it is harder. Uh, and so it was never something that crossed my mind. I thought, oh my God, it would be awesome, but never something that crossed my mind. And forget about Hollywood. You don't even see representation in Hollywood at that point, right? It
Well,
shifted a
let me
lot.
ask you something. Did you move here because you wanted to be an artist, or
No.
did you moved here for other reasons and suddenly you thought, oh, this is something I could do?
Yeah. I moved here for other reasons. And then I went through a difficult patch in my life and I was looking for a creative outlet. I was looking for any outlet. And I decided to take an acting class, and that was that. And I was like, oh my God, this is what passion feels like. And this is what it feels like to really feel free. And it makes me the most happy when I'm on stage, or when I'm on set. And I think acting is a study of human behavior, and I absolutely love it. And so I started in 2014 and started to take a few classes and then went to a conservatory and then started to do theater. I never ever thought I would do anything professionally. It didn't even cross my mind. I just did it for the love of it. And then I had an agent reach out and I thought, oh, I could probably do this professionally, and then started to do it. And yeah, many years down the line, I guess almost a decade down the line, decided to produce produce the show and do a one-woman play.
I'm going to ask you more more questions, more probing questions.
Yes,
But
please.
I'm gonna move to Rudaba with the same question. Did you were you an artist? Did you consider yourself an actress when you were in Pakistan? And is there an arts scene in Pakistan, a theater scene in Pakistan? What was your experience?
Yes, thank you, Bob, for that question. I have always considered myself as an artist, even as a child when my father actually is a musician and also among other things. And my mother sings beautifully. So I was raised in that environment of music, dancing, singing. We used to watch movies together. We still do. That's one of the things my family loves doing together is sit down, watch a movie. And we grew up on these Western films with Clint Eastwood and British TV shows like Mind Your Language and Blackadder and whatnot. So I
Oh
grew up
no,
in
not
that.
Blackadder. Oh
I,
no.
I I actually find it so funny. I just have that British weird humor, I guess.
That's Rowan
But
Atkinson, right? Isn't it?
yeah.
Silly, silly, silly.
Silly, but fun. We need more silliness, Bob, in this world right
At
now,
the
you know?
moment, I would settle for silly. I would actually settle for reasonable and rational, but we'll go for
Totally
silly.
surreal, magic surrealism, yes. So but no one in my family pursued acting or singing or any of these artistic professions as an actual profession. My father always said, you can do it, but you have to do it as a hobby. So you have to go to school, get another degree, and then do whatever you want once you're financially independent, but not under my roof, unfortunately.
Oh, well,
So
my mother wasn't quite that adamant, but my mother said, please, you have to do it, something as a backup. I'm very
yeah,
happy that
yeah,
you're a playwright, but find something as a backup. She
yeah. So
wanted me to be
you
a
know,
lawyer. That was never going to happen.
oh my God, that would have been, you might have been good as a lawyer.
I'll litigate all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always had that, you can say, an obstacle for myself that I couldn't really pursue acting as a full-time career. I actually studied economics in Pakistan. But then I had this whole like double life that I was leading. I would go to my classes, then go to call time for and rehearsals for my show. So I've done a lot of theater in Pakistan. I was on a TV show, a series regular. I've done films, short films, feature films. In fact, I was part of the group of groundbreaking artists who started Pakistan's English language theater movement, you can say, because Pakistan has a long tradition of theater, but mostly in Punjabi, in Urdu, in local languages, and also dance theater. That's the most common form of theater in Pakistan. Is this yeah, these women and uh, men just dancing in a more, you can say, provocative way. And
Is it story based or is it abstract?
there's some story, but the crux of it is music and dance. There's some story to it, but mostly people go there to watch dances, people dancing on stage, and they, are a certain class of, let's say, the working class, blue collar class actually goes to watch these theater shows. And there is not a lot of, you can say, mainstream theater where in English language, first of all, and the kind that people actually pay good money for. So we were part of that theater language, in English language theater movement where we actually adapted Broadway productions like West Side Story and Phantom of the Opera and Bombay Dreams and Tom, Dick, and Harry, some of these famous plays. We adapted them for local Pakistani audiences and actually got people to pay tickets and come see the show. So we were starting that awareness and that interest. Pakistan also has a lot of, you can say, local Urdu language theater companies that have been doing fantastic work for the last, ever since Pakistan's conception, actually. And they have touched upon very interesting issues like patriarchy and political freedoms and other current issues that Pakistan is dealing with. The theater sector or industry comments on it immediately. So there's like always, they're always in dialogue in terms of what's happening in Pakistan as a country, politically, economically, and then the theater kind of reflects that, but in local languages. So that's my background in terms of, and then I came to America, did a bit of a detour in terms of trying to establish myself on my own here as an artist, because, as immigrants, we need the visa, we need the green card. That became my first and foremost, you can say, a priority when I moved to America in 2011. And now that I have my
You
green
have it now.
card,
You have it now. Yeah.
thank God, thank God, thank God I
Neersha,
have my
has
green
that been
card.
an issue for you as well?
I wouldn't say it's been an issue, but it's definitely top of mind, I think, for anyone coming in, to Rudaba's point. You can't just freely say, I quit and go do this, because you come in, there's a certain process. You got a visa for a specific opportunity. You got to pursue that lane. So there are challenges to it. You can't be as free unless you have your green card, for sure.
So, do you both feel comfortable in the current environment, or do you have concerns? I just jumped political. I just went political, I'm curious.
I don't. I'll go
Okay.
ahead, Rudaba.
It is scary, Bob. It is scary, especially since I'm also Muslim. and that adds a layer of complexity to things. Which is why I am really focusing on my show Halalish, because I want to tell a different story. I want people to connect and understand that what you see in the media about immigrants, about women, about Muslim women, about women of color, that's just one side of the narrative. There's a whole other side, a nuanced perspective, a different kind of storytelling. So people can connect on that universal level rather than be like, oh, cultural stereotype, religious stereotype, what they see in the media. So I feel like art and theater and performance and films and TV have a role to play here in kind of bridging that gap between what people think and perceive and what actually is the living experience of someone from that background.
Well, thank you for that because basically that's my belief about the purpose of art. The purpose of art is basically to bring people together. I say this every week. Politics is where people go to fight. Art is where people come together to listen.
Yeah.
And I do think that now I thought we were on the right track in terms of an openness and a willingness and at least an awareness of the need to tell other stories in our within our culture to see other stories than the ones that we normally would see. It's getting harder and harder. There's more and more pushback on that right now. So I'm not happy about that, but I'm not sure where we're going. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Nirja, can you talk a little bit about what is your understanding about the roots of theater in your country? It's a little there things are different. I mean, enough
Yeah,
if nothing else, the mythologies are different. I think
yeah,
that so much of any culture is sort of pinned onto basic mythologies and basic just ideas that are just become part of your culture that are
mhm.
expressed in different ways in the arts.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I would say it's sort of like there's the pre-colonial time, there's the colonial time, and then there's the post-colonial time, right? So if you look at it in terms of pre-colonial time, it was very traditional, it was very spiritual. It was like epic, it was a lot of like folk, all of that. And then you get into more of the colonial time, and you start
there were those long titles that I can't pronounce. That there were
Kalidasa.
yeah, there are a couple of them. They're very
Yeah.
famous Indian works.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
The
yeah.
the
Shakuntala. Sorry. Yeah,
the
yeah.
Mahasha, what is it? The Mahash something. Anyway,
Uh,
I can never pronounce it.
yeah, yeah,
Are
yeah,
you
yeah.
talking about the Mahabharat?
Yes, Mahabharat.
Oh.
Mahabharat and yeah, Bhagavad
Yeah.
Gita. Yes, those are like some of the earliest examples of delicious storytelling.
Yeah, it
And
is
how
really.
can you guys would you mind addressing how different your two cultures are as well as how similar they are? Or is that too much?
I think at the end of
I
the
think I
day,
would like to I would like everybody to
yeah.
understand.
I mean, so then there's the pre-colonial, colonial, right? Colonial, and then there's the post-colonial. That's when India and Pakistan really like became two separate countries. But in general, I would say at the sort of core of it, our values are very similar. Our stories. I mean, I think in general, our stories are so universal in terms of what we want. I think everyone loves Bollywood. Everyone loves cricket, right? Like there's like from a cultural standpoint in terms of what we love. I think
Oh,
politics,
Bollywood probably is an illustration of what you were saying, Rudaba, which is how much dance is in the culture. It's the root of the
yeah.
culture. Bollywood, I mean, Bollywood always expresses itself in dance at some point.
I think it represents, I'll speak about like just growing up in India, it speaks about we're just celebratory in the way we like to celebrate things. And Bollywood is a lot of song and dance, but again, there's been a lot of Western influence. You'll see some movies that just they'll have like background music now, and you don't really have that much song and dance. Some that are very like the 90s were like core Bollywood with the song and the dancing and the chiffon saris and the running around the trees and all of that. Our movies are everything you want, like a package. There's drama, there's comedy, there's dancing, there's singing, there's action. It's all packaged in one movie, and that's the story for 3 hours, for the most part, in a lot of Bollywood, at least the commercial Bollywood movies. There's commercial, there's independent, right? So there's still that sort of distinction in terms of Indian cinema in general, and certainly in Bollywood.
Um, Rudaba, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Sure. I think after partition, you can say when India and Pakistan separated in 1947, Pakistan took a different trajectory, you can say, in terms of developing its various art forms, film, theater. Lollywood or the Pakistani film industry is not as prolific as Bollywood, but over the years we have produced some very interesting poignant films, and also in an environment that has been characterized by a lot of censorship and sometimes a lot of, you can say, religious extremism. There's also, at many points in Pakistan's history, a lot of violence as well in terms of terrorism and just general economic and political strife. Theater and film have still emerged as ways in which people have sought refuge from all of that, right? And they have found these art forms as a way to express themselves. And I'm so proud of where Pakistani dramas, soap operas are considered one of the best in the world. People are watching Pakistani soap operas, soap dramas all over the world. They're being translated into different languages. And they're also have evolved a lot from talking about the poor wife and the daughter-in-law, the downtrodden woman, to now more female empowerment and more feminist stories. So there's this evolution that we've seen in Pakistani dramas and films as well. And recently, Pakistan was on the map for this beautiful film called Joyland, talking about a trans woman's journey. It faced a lot of censorship and a difficult journey in Pakistan, but it was still made, it was still produced, and still was able to break records at the Cannes Film Festival. So there's a lot of, you can say, excitement and interest and evolution happening in the Pakistani performing arts space, despite all the obstacles we've been faced with and continue to be faced with, the political, religious extremism and political, you can say, instability as well. But I'm just always so thrilled to see these stories coming out of Pakistan. And I also wish to be part of this movement and tell stories about what it means to be a Pakistani Muslim immigrant woman living in America. That the conversation is not just about hijabs and oppression and terrorism and oh my God. I know those kinds of conversations win Oscars, and that it fits the bill of what a Pakistani Muslim woman looks like. But I want to challenge that, you know? And with my show Halalish too, I don't talk about any of these things. I talk about my love life, you know, how difficult it's been to date in New York City.
Oh,
And you know, how I am finding myself, my identity, reconciling some of my different the aspects that make up me, and how I am, you know, dealing with all of that on a daily basis so that people see that, oh my God, you're just like us. I go through that too all the time. So yes, it's the culturally specific Pakistani Muslim immigrant story, but it's also very universal, Who hasn't have had, trouble finding love in New York City? I mean, all of us pretty much,
So
So
Neeraja,
that's
how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm
Okay.
doing great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, are you, is your experience similar or different from Radaba in terms of how you've sort of tried to adjust to this culture? Do you find that people are telling stories that you think are not necessarily the most important stories? And do you have other things that you want to see
Um,
everybody made aware of?
yeah, yeah. I think I remember, I think probably one of the earliest Hollywood movies I saw that was based on an Indian family is probably Monsoon Wedding, and then I saw Bend It Like Beckham, and those were fantastic and wonderful. And then I feel like and then there's Slumdog Millionaire, which of course went to the Oscars. Um, but I think a lot of those are steeped in stereotypes, right? So it's usually tends to be any story you see tends to be an angry parent, usually an angry father, or it tends to be a woman is very ambitious, but her family is holding her back, or about arranged marriage, or there's a lot of tropes and stereotypes. Not that they're there because some of it is true, but it's true across multiple cultures. What I'd love to see is uh, people of color being represented in like universal stories that are devoid of stereotypes and reflect basic human stories. Why can't she be in a story like Still Alice, or as one of the thriller or Marvel movies, or in a show like Succession, or things like stories like that that are just a story about a person trying to navigate life. And so I'd love to see more stories. They can have an aspect of culture, of course, because we're very proud of that. But I'd love it to not just only lean in that much. But I think Rodaba has a point, which is a lot of times these stereotypes is what gets you the financing and therefore gets you the campaign to go to, you know, the bigger film industries.
That's kind of in the commercial film, in any commercial world, whether it's theater
Mm.
or film, the obvious is always what people are going to be gravitating towards.
Yeah.
The obvious and the familiar, and those are the things that are most easy, the easiest to get funded. So you're right, but that's a constant battle, though. That's a constant
The constant battle.
artistic battle. Um,
Completely, complete. I mean, we face that. I know Asians face. They're like, we don't only do like, you know, action, karate, Jackie Chan kind of movies. There's a lot more nuance in our stories. I think a lot of um, people of color face that in general.
in
And
2 weeks, Lenny Godfrey is going to be coming on my show with two
yeah,
writers that she's working with. We're going to talk about how to how to get your voice authentic. I mean,
yeah,
if you're going to jump the cultural barrier and you're going to write about cultures that aren't necessarily your own, make sure that you can do it in an authentic way and be
yeah,
authentic. Um,
yeah,
it,
yeah,
and it seems like it's even a different problem if you're writing about your own culture. You have to find ways of writing about your own culture that are authentic to you, that is genuine to you, and yet will be accepted by others and produced.
Mhm.
We're all writing things, and the hope is for all of us is that we'll get produced. And sometimes you have to kind of figure out what you don't have to figure out what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. You have to find the people that will accept the stories that you're telling. I,
Yeah.
I think
I
that's
agree.
that's the better answer.
yes, yes. Because as
Yeah,
soon as we start pandering to other people's expectations of what they want to see and don't want to see, I think that's where we lose authenticity as artists. Because I feel like anything we create with full passion, fervor, authenticity, and love will connect with another and will get produced. So I feel like artists should just care about what's in their heart and just tell a story. Just tell the story of how you felt and what happened. And there will be people out there who will connect. And I think that authenticity, we shouldn't at least try not to sacrifice for what we think other people want or might not want. Because if we get down that rabbit hole, there's no end. Because there are 10 different people, 10 different expectations.
I must say that I can't think of anything more important than getting Muslim stories told in a way that people will understand and accept and not and stop fearing the other,
Exactly.
stop fearing it.
The
Um,
love
Yes.
story, a person trying to look for love is just so universal, right? We're all looking for love.
We're all
Um,
looking for love. It doesn't matter. Yes, exactly.
yeah. And I will say, one of the things that made me gravitate towards this play was the fact that it was unpredictable and it was a fascinating story, but it was completely devoid of stereotypes. I'm a South Asian person doing this play. This could be anybody on that stage. It's just about a writer and her story and her being confronted with her own self. We all have conversations with ourselves at some point. Um, and what does that look like? So,
at the
yeah.
Edinburgh Fringe, I happened upon a piece that was a one-man show. He was Hindu, and it was
Mm.
called Last Rites, and it was about him coming to terms with his father. He's not only Hindu, but he's deaf mute.
Oh,
And
wow.
as from the beginning of the show, I'm going, this man is going to command an entire, it's a big theater and a big stage. Single deaf mute on stage seems impossible. He
Right.
was such a master storyteller in both his, well, he mimed a lot, and he acted so beautifully. And there were things that I was watching on stage. It was a story that I was completely unaware of. I don't know anything about this, but it was two stories. It was not only the story of him as a Hindu dealing with his father, but it was a deaf mute son dealing with the fact that his father never chose to learn sign language so he could communicate.
Wow.
So it was gorgeous. It was, again, it's a story that I wouldn't have expected to seen to have seen anywhere, and I saw this story and it stuck with me and it made an impression. It made an impression on many levels. It made me see the humanity of this man who is a Hindu. What is a Hindu? It's not my terrain. It's not what I'm used to. And yes, it all seemed very human and understandable. So yes, art is serving its purpose when it helps people see other people's stories and embrace the stories and accept them and say, oh, they're like me.
Hmm.
So it's let me go back to you were talking about pre-colonization, colonization, and post-colonization. Can you give us any other? I know that you didn't study this as a topic, but can you tell me a little bit more about what your cultures are like and how they're different from here?
Um,
I know it's not an easy question.
how I don't know how I could talk about the differences in culture, Rajaba, but the thing with India is it's we have 23 different states, and every state had its own version of culture and own version of celebration, own version of the gods that we pray to. And so it's its own, like it's like if you go to Europe, there's different countries and they're all part of Europe. It's not a direct correlation. In some ways like that, in the sense that you've got all these different states with their own little version of how they work. And we all come together as this beautiful, like in this beautiful cohesive way. In general, overall, our culture is that of deep reverence, um, glorious celebration, massive family values, um, a lot of um, focus on uh, figuring out a way to work with each other. And then we're like in some ways, a family that like still like maybe hustle with each other, um, but we'll always come back and always celebrate together and also invite a lot of people. It's a very hospitable country. It's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful country with years and years and years of heritage. And we have so many different languages. We have 23 different languages and over 1,000 dialects. Like it's hard to describe it in one way, in one form, in terms of in terms of that, but
I
overall,
didn't expect it to be a simple question.
yeah, yeah, it's yeah, I would say I'm not being very articulate, but
No, you are actually.
yeah, okay. But that's sort of the beauty of our country. Yeah.
Rudaba?
Yes, so one main difference that I would say is that in Pakistan, as I mentioned earlier, theater and some of these art forms have a long history, yes, and they have been used for a particular purpose in the sense of theater for development and theater for social change. So I see a lot of work being done to use theater and these art forms to tell a story, yes, but tell a story in a way that impacts the audience and changes their behavior, right? And there's a huge theater for development. You can say history also in Brazil and other parts of the world. And in Pakistan in particular, using theater as a way to communicate about important issues, like as I mentioned earlier, political, religious, patriarchal, and other aspects. So I feel like artists in Pakistan are made of steel, so brave that they are telling these stories, touching upon these important topics, despite what may or may not happen to them, you know. And I think Pakistan is doing so well now over the years. There's more investment, you can say, in colleges and universities that have been set up across the country to train actors and artists in theater, film, television. There are diplomas, there are theaters like Ajoka Theater that have been, and Napa in Karachi, these big institutions and theaters, the Rafi Peer Theater Company, they've been operating since years and years. The Rafi Peer Theater Company in particular has a very interesting, you can say, focus on puppetry. So
I'm glad
every
we finally made it to puppetry. I was wondering.
Yes, Pakistan has a huge tradition of that. We love it. And the way we communicate and tell stories through puppets, I think that's actually perhaps it evolved, or there was more emphasis on puppets because you can hide behind a puppet and tell a story, right? So you can like overcome the obstacles in that way, and nobody can tell who's behind the puppet, and the puppet can say anything, even some of the most controversial and interesting things. So I feel like puppetry really evolved. We have this festival called the Rafi Peer Theater Puppetry Festival, and actually Sesame Street was in collaboration with Rafi Peer to do some work around puppetry as well. So I would say puppetry has taken a lot of, it has a stronghold in Pakistan as well, in addition to some of the other more political and theater for development and social change related aspects as well, and also independent cinema, independent film, separate from the big Lollywood or Bollywood vehicle. Now Pakistani cinema is more independent and art related, like art films, which is interesting to see. Why it hasn't gone mainstream as yet, and we have these independent filmmakers and artists trying to put films together and challenge stereotypes and tell stories that could bridge that gap, but what we were talking earlier between the East and the West.
I think the line between independent film and the studio film is getting fuzzy
Mhm.
in the past like 10 years. There are pieces that come out of independent film that really have a feel of of a real substantial commercial release, and then some of the studios are doing smaller pieces and more art pieces. So I think it just goes back and forth. I think there's mutual influence going on. Um, Owen, you're here. Okay, Owen or Jay, have there been any comments in the or questions in the from the audience, guys? I invite you to bring in your questions, especially those of you who have specific interests in South Asian theater. Um,
Yeah,
any
we have a comment from Scott, who I don't know is with us anymore. Um,
Yeah, he left. Oh, he
Looks like
asked
he
that.
left, but he said, I have to push back a little on the idea that narratives about arranged marriages are stereotypes being imposed on Indian American writers. My Indian screenwriting students in the Bay Area of California often chose to write on that theme. They were not being paid or coerced. They chose that subject, and I certainly did not feel like they were dealing in stereotypes.
I don't think that the point was that they were stereotypes or not stereotypes. It just was I think you were talking about the idea that there are other kinds of stories to tell. Uh,
That's exactly.
stereotypes are stereotypes because they're based on truth. Cliches are cliches because they're truths that we just hear too often. So,
Right.
Joel wants to know: have you found that there is a supportive community of South Asian artists here in New York?
Um, yes and no.
Okay, so give us both sides of it.
I think over the past few years, there's been a lot of spotlight on South Asians and South Asian culture, Diwali being the most recent, which is fantastic to see. I think people are feeling a lot more comfortable talking about their culture and saying it and celebrating it in the West than they had before, which is just wonderful and wonderful to see. In terms of support, I think there are a lot of people out there really like creating community and supporting you, which is really wonderful to see. And especially like as I'm doing the play and reaching out to a lot of South Asian communities that have been extraordinarily supportive. So I'll say there's that. And then on the other side of the coin, I think a lot of people say it and very few do it. So there's that.
Um,
Yeah.
I agree with that, especially um, when no one's watching, right? Behind closed doors. How are we treating each other? How are we supporting? Sometimes we say that we're here for supporting women of color and supporting South Asian artists, but then when you actually get to it, it's a different story altogether. So I feel like we have to, as a community, do better and not gatekeep and try to be more open and support each other, because together I feel like we can rise, and together we can really even creatively support each other and tell stories that have bigger impact. So I feel like that kind of support needs to be even more grounded in here in New York City. But yes, there are lots of different communities and groups that are doing some fantastic work to bring artists together. I was just at a reading on Wednesday in Brooklyn, where our playwright came together with several South Asian actors, and we told stories and had so much fun. We did monologues, we did uh, excerpts from the playwright's play, and also it's just a way to really come together and support each other and tell stories that may or may not see the light of day, given how production and the industry is going. So we have to create these spaces on our own. We have to create these opportunities on our own. And you just have to find those people that spark and support and are good people, and you can do so much together is what I feel like. And not everybody, of course, will be that person for you. You just have to see.
Owen, I think I see another question. You want to ask it
Yeah,
first?
question from Tracy Swedlow. In what ways does writing for the stage in English or another non-native language change how your stories are received in India versus abroad? Are different stories told as a result?
Um, I'm not a writer. But I will say the play that I'm doing was originally written in an Indian language called Kannada, and then has been translated into multiple Indian languages and now in English. So in terms of how that's received from an audience standpoint, it just depends on the audience that you are addressing. The play was first written in Kannada, and in Bangalore, where I'm from, people speak that language, and so, well received. And you can't take Kannada to Bombay and expect people to receive it the same way, or bring Kannada to a New York off Broadway theater and expect people to receive it the same way. So there's adapting in terms of language, but the story, if well written, will resonate with audiences irrespective.
Nice answer. I like that.
Well, I'm shameless. I really don't care. I just put Urdu, Punjabi, all my languages in what I write. I'm a writer. I wrote my solo show, and there's Punjab, but you'll get it. Trust me, you'll get it. You'll know exactly what I'm saying because it's not about language. It's about human emotion. It's about expressions. It's about what you think, what you sense, what you feel, what you perceive. And I feel like since these are some of the most universal emotions that we're feeling, you can connect in a way that, it doesn't even matter. At some point, you're like, I hear it. I see it. I know exactly what you're saying. So I feel like it's also a moment for us to, help our audiences along, educate them a little bit, that look at all these other cultures and languages and emotions that can be conveyed in so many different ways, right? It doesn't take away from the story, it actually enhances it because there are some things that you can say so well in Punjabi that have absolutely no translation in English. But when I say it in
I
Punjabi,
can relate with Yiddish.
and but when I say that, for example, that sentence in my show in Punjabi, people are like, I get it, girl, I get it, you know? So yeah, I think people should just tell their stories however they want to tell them. Just make sure that they're coming straight from the heart, they're authentic, and I think the audience will get it.
And I see two questions from Tracy Swedlow.
Well, we also, before the second question from Tracy, we have a question from Lenny Godfrey. I find that it is important that we, as people of color, are universal in our portrayals, but I do think it is immensely important to explain your individual cultures that can bring a better understanding of your similarities and differences. Your thoughts?
I think Martin Scorsese said it best, which is the more specific you are, the more universal it is. So I agree.
Anything to add, Rudaba?
Sure. There are themes in my show relating to marriage and fertility and divorce and various different things that I am touching upon, but there are also arranged marriage and a few other things that are very specific to Pakistan and Muslim culture, like nikah and how our clerics behave and what was
What is
said,
nikah?
what was
What is
done.
nikah?
Nikah is this Muslim marriage ceremony. It's like where you sign the contract and you have these prayers, you have the religious leader presiding over it, and you have the whole family. It's a very intimate, very beautiful affair.
This
But
this is very similar to Orthodox Judaism. The
exactly,
contract, the
and
contract.
that's the connection I make in my show.
Yeah.
Like the Molana, which is equivalent of the Jewish rabbi, they're kind of like the same, you know. Their roles are the same when it comes to marriage. It's a very intimate, private, beautiful affair. So I kind of describe that. But as I was talking, so I've done like a couple of table reads where I've had playwrights, directors, casting, producers come and hear the show. And they're like, wow, the way you were talking about those issues, a woman in Texas could understand.
That's saying a lot.
I was like, wow. So even though I was talking about very particular Pakistani things, someone in Texas or a woman who has gone through some other kind of, you can say, restriction in her life, where her liberty or her decisions were curtailed or obstructed, could understand.
I'm going to quote a well-known story. There's a show that we know called Fiddler on the Roof,
Yeah,
written
yeah, yeah,
by
I know. Yeah.
my old friend Sheldon Harnick. Sheldon talks about how they were going to be moving Fiddler on the Roof into a production in Japan, and
Hmm.
everybody was saying, "What you do?" And Sheldon himself was going, "Huh? How are we going to do that?" And they put on Fiddler on the Roof in Japan, and audience members came up to him afterwards. How did you know so much about our culture?
Yes.
Humanity is humanity.
Mhm.
Although sometimes I question it these days, but let's just give it the benefit of the doubt for now.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
did Owen, where are we with that with
Yeah, we
questions?
have another question from Tracy Swedlow. Also, just real quick, I think Fiddler is like the biggest non-Japanese musical in Japan in history. They love it there. Tracy Swellow asks, how do storytelling traditions of South Asia mesh or do not mesh with Western dramatic structures that often dominate?
Can I just say something really funny? Interesting. So, we were colonized by the British for centuries. And of course, we had our own theatrical and performance art traditions before the British came. But then with the British came this idea of theater and, Shakespeare and all of that tradition that now has kind of permeated our culture as well. And it's very interesting now that South Asian artists are taking kind of like, how do you say, recolonizing, taking over some of these theatrical modalities to tell their own stories, if that makes sense. So we're kind of using theater as a vehicle to now tell our own stories with a South Asian, Muslim, Indian, Pakistani flair to it. So I really find that very interesting.
It's a that's a big question in general because basically we have developed dramaturgical beliefs, tenets, structures that we have become very used to. And so when we have, I run a play reading series. I run a musical series too. When we get plays submitted that don't follow the normal structure, a lot of times my readers just are confused. They don't know what to do. So the it's a good question that was just raised that Tracy raises. We have dramatic structures in Western classic theater, and not everything fits that structure. And people do we need to give offer the grace and the freedom for people, the flexibility for people to tell stories the way that they need to tell the story. Um, Sometimes it will be able to fit into the audience that we're trying to tell the story to, and sometimes it will confuse them. And it's still the artist's job to find the best way to tell the story that they want to tell. Um,
Right.
you also wanted to communicate to as many people as possible. But I
Hmm.
see this all the time. I mean, plays that we get that don't fit the norm, that people just they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say about it.
There are also very interesting Shakespeare adaptations in Urdu and in Hindi, and Bollywood has made films on Shakespeare and kind of like reclaiming Shakespeare, for ourselves instead of like having that imposed on us. How about we take it, kind of like what we were doing, my group and I were doing in Pakistan, adapting some of these Broadway productions for local audiences so that they could connect and they could understand what was going on in the rest of the world and what kind of stories were being told, but telling them in a way that they could connect as well. So I think that's a very interesting aspect of our cultures that I've seen where we are adapting some of this Western theatrical and film and TV narrative to local audiences.
Okay. Owen, anything else?
Um, Janet wanted to know where where each of you are next performing or seeing your plays, where that can happen. I know
We
Nirja.
have we have answers for that. Radaba's going to be doing a reading of her piece on Monday, and
And
Nir
one more on November 12th. So there's, if you
ah,
can't make it on October 27th, Monday, Janet, please come on November 12th and I will share that information. Just visit the website that I shared, halalishtheplay.com, and stay in touch with me and I'll keep you posted.
and
Thank
Nirja has a run of a play coming up, and we actually have a discount for True members. Well, we have a discount that we're using for True members.
Yeah,
It's a discount you're using.
yeah,
So that's also in the chat as well.
Yeah.
Um,
You can find Broken Images on Eventbrite. And we run for 3 weeks, November 6th to the 23rd. So come to any show.
thank you all. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
okay. So can I let you guys go? I can go let you go back to your lives. I want to thank you both for coming today. There's I thought it was in it was in conversation I was hoping to have for a long time. So I'm glad that we had it. I want to have more conversations like this. I want to really bring more people in from who have a background in other cultures and kind of this is my being the playwright. I want to tell the stories. I want to tell the stories from the people who've actually lived the stories and see whether they resonate with the people in the room. And I'm sure that they have. I want to thank everybody who was here today. Thank you, my true community. And I'm going to do a little uh, farewell to YouTube in a second. Um, ah, I don't have a technician to help me, so I did this all by myself. So out there in the YouTube land, I hope you found the conversation interesting. I hope that it's made you think. I hope you've learned things maybe that you didn't know, and I'm hoping that it also made you think about maybe becoming more a part of TRU. Theater Resources Unlimited. We're here every Friday. Every Friday at 5:30, 5 o'clock we open the doors. 5:30 we start, and we have a lot of interesting things coming up. In 2 weeks we're gonna we're gonna be doing a conversation about is the Broadway musical dead again, yet again. We're going to be talking about some Times articles that really sort of talked about the how difficult it is to have a successful show in New York, which is true, but nevertheless, theater keeps surviving, and it keeps surviving for over a century now. And then in 2 weeks, Lenny Godfrey is going to be in the room with me, and we're going to talk about telling how to how to tell stories authentically. If you're telling a story that's not from your own personal background, the common knowledge is basically don't do it. But we're not going to say don't do it. We're going to say if you're going to do it, make sure that you're being authentic and make sure that you have somebody advising you so that you can do it authentically. Then after that, we have the publicist for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival is going to be coming on, and one of our local New York publicists. We're going to talk about the differences between promoting a show individually and promoting it in a festival, and we're also going to talk about different aspects of PR. And more after that, and after that, and after that, and after that. We do this as a public service. You're all welcome. We are so happy to have you all here. And if you found us out there in YouTube land, I'm so glad that you're here. Free is fine. Coming for free is fine. We completely understand and welcome you to be here and joining us. However, at the same time, we have bills to pay. So if you ever feel the inclination to pay $12 to come to this, that would be appreciated. If you want to join TRU as a member, that'd be great. It's $95 for a year. It's $130 if you're a group for a year. And if you want to just make a donation, don't let me stop you. We are at TRU Donate, trudonate.com, trudonate.com. You will be able to donate on that site, and anything you give us will be appreciated. I think that's it for today, everybody. hope to see you in the weeks to come. And stay creative and stay hopeful in spite of the fact that lots of things are happening in our world that could easily discourage us. Deep breath.